Hi, I'm Amanda McCoy Flanagan. Welcome to Soul Rising. On this podcast, you will hear honest, off-the-cuff, vulnerable conversations about all things love, loss, and connection. Deep and meaningful conversations, sure to pull at your heartstrings and enlighten your soul. Again, welcome. It's time to let your soul rise. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so happy to have our special guest, Gina Kunadian, with us today. She is the host of the Shine Within podcast, and I met Gina, I guess it was over the summer. We recorded me on her show on Shine Within, and we just hit it off. So I wanted Gina to come on my show and share with you just her beauty and her experience. And we do have so much in common. So let me tell you a little bit about Gina and then we'll jump in. She is a devoted wife, loving mother, certified massage therapist, TEDx speaker. Congratulations on that. Big deal. And a dedicated women's alcohol-free sobriety coach, guiding women to break free from the shackles of alcohol dependency to realize and live their fullest potential. As the host of the podcast Shine Within, Gina shares inspiration and transformative insights that cultivate confidence, clarity, and vitality in her listeners. Gina's unique Shine process provides steadfast support, illuminating the path of recovery and self-discovery for many. So the Shine process is described as a comprehensive approach to help others achieve sobriety and rediscover their true selves, a process that guides others towards a fulfilling alcohol-free life. So Gina, welcome to the show. So happy to have you.
Oh my goodness, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me on here. I was so excited when I woke up this morning. I'm like, I get to speak to Amanda and we're just going to have an amazing conversation today. So thank you.
Yeah, this is my pleasure. Thank you for being here. So why don't you tell us about your journey toward recovery and this really cool transformation Shine process?
So yes, every creation comes from our own personal journey, right? So with mine, it all started with childhood, of course. Unfortunately, I experienced a horrific childhood from the ages between 6 and 12 years old. I was molested sexually by a trusted person in our family. And I kept it all inside. I didn't say anything to anybody. Nobody knew anything. So I experienced a lot of anxiety as a little girl. I was 8 years old, had severe stomach issues. They took me to the hospital. They diagnosed me with IBS. It wasn't IBS. It was trauma.
Yeah.
And then later on in high school, I got with a boyfriend. I was about 15 years old. He was actually very abusive, manipulative, and would just put me down constantly. Had to wind up getting a restraining order on him. And that ruined my reputation because he was the high school jock. And then I was just the ordinary girl, with the cute guy of school. And so I didn't like high school too much until my junior year, which then I got into a different crowd. And then I met another guy. Actually, we'd known each other. We were friends in junior high. And then he introduced me to the rave culture, which is like an underground party, a lot of narcotics involved in that. And mind you, I've never smoked. I never drank. I never did anything before. And my first substance was ecstasy at this rave in Oakland, California. It was an underground party. I thought I was going to die, Amanda. I thought, what am I ingesting in my body right now? I thought I was going to die. But then I started feeling really good. I felt like a lot of love. Everyone was loving everybody. And that's what I was missing because I didn't love myself. I was looking for love all the wrong places. And that's where I found love. So I kept that lifestyle until I turned about 21, 22. Well, what happens when you turn 21, 22? Oh, we're legal age to drink alcohol. Well, I went from raves to then going clubbing and I was drinking heavily. Same type of environment, though. A lot of love, a lot of happiness, a lot of friendly people. I met a lot of friends. I wound up meeting my husband at a club in Blue Monkey in San Jose, California. And he had added me on not Facebook. Remember MySpace?
Yes.
So on MySpace, I remember I was talking to one of my girlfriends and he comes up to me and says, hey, I just want to introduce myself to you. I had added you on MySpace and I just want to put a face to a name and say hello. I said, hello. Well, he gave me a CD because he was a DJ. And I fell in love with his music. I was like, oh, he's playing one of my favorite songs. And then I messaged him and we had tea, believe it or not. Our first we had tea.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
what? Yeah,
It's
would not
totally
expect that at all.
right. We had tea and then we were just sharing our stories. And then we fell
Love it.
in love. We got married in 2007 in Hawaii. We had our first son in 2008, but we didn't stop partying. We kept on
Mhm.
partying, partying, partying. My drinking was social to habitual, then to dependency, where he wound up getting me a fifth of vodka almost every day because my body needed to have that much alcohol in my system in order for me to function, for me to work, for me to drive, for me to mother, for me to wife, for me just to live. Because I knew if I stopped, I would be severely ill,
Yeah.
possibly even die. But nobody knew anything in my family. I kept it a big secret. I would even drink at work, kept
Mhm.
it secret. I started actually becoming very angry,
Mm.
a lot of anxiety, a lot of sadness, a lot of fear. And I projected all of that onto my husband. And I started becoming abusive. I was hitting, I was yelling, I was fighting. Cops were coming in and out of our house. Our little 5-year-old at the time was seeing everything. And it was a horrible lifestyle. Well, it came to a point where one time I thought he was cheating on me. He wasn't. It was all in my delusional mind, all those lies that are
Yes.
fed when we're
Yeah.
drinking and we're very vulnerable.
Huh?
And I wound up throwing all of his clothes out in the patio and saying, I don't know, you're cheating on me. Da, 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 da. And he's like, you know what? We're not coming home. We're going to be staying at my mother's house and you need to get help. He had enough. Enough was enough. So I was very sad, very depressed. I was prescribed Ativan, which is for my anxiety at the time. I was texting my friend. I said, you know what? I'm so sad that I don't care if I live or die. I'm just going to take the rest of whatever's left in my bottle of Ativan and I'm going to down this alcohol. And I don't care if I live or die. Well, he took that very seriously and he wound up contacting my family, who then contacted 911. The ambulance wound up in my house. I remember very, very vaguely, like, okay, like what's going on here?
Mm.
And I just remember being woken up in the hospital, and then my doctor was there saying, "I'm so happy you're alive," because I wanted to die. And I wound up going to an inpatient program, which then led me to an outpatient program. The counselor there wound up asking me one time, hey, are you drinking alcohol? I said, nope, I'm here for my anger, anxiety, and depression. I don't have a problem.
Mhm.
I really did have a problem. I just didn't want to admit it then. It was 2014 in November, and Thanksgiving was here. My mom said, let's go to your brother's house. And I had just had a night of partying. And so, of course, I was a little bit hungover, anxiety. And I said, sure. Well, I didn't bring any alcohol with me. Normally, I carry it in my purse because, I needed it in order for me to do anything.
Yeah.
I wound up going to Thanksgiving and I started feeling very sick, sweaty. I felt like I was going to pass out and I was shaky. I was like, Mom, I need to drink something. She's like, oh, no, you're not going to drink anything. I said, I'm going to, I don't know what's going to happen if I don't. So she wanted to
Uh-huh.
give me 4 ounces of wine. Here I was drinking a fifth of vodka. I
Yeah.
was, okay, this isn't going to cut it, Mom. No. So she gave me more, of course. And then that's when I realized, wow, I really do have an addiction problem. So that was a day that I finally admitted I was an alcoholic. I checked myself into rehab the next month. I drove there myself. Yes, I probably had alcohol in my system while I drove. I got there and I did 30 days, no alcohol. I met incredible people. Counselors were amazing. But what happened when I left there, Amanda? I went to the casino and drank because I thought, hey, if I can do 30 days, I can do it again. And there's my relapse. One of my friends that we used to kind of hang out in college, and he was there. Well, I wound up getting pregnant and I was like, okay, well, there we go. There's a reason for me to become sober, right? So I
Yep.
got drink and then I was nursing. But as soon as I stopped nursing, I went back to my bottle because my baby went on his bottle, right? So,
Yeah.
and things just got worse and worse. And here are the same patterns again. I was fighting. I wound up in jail because my son's father at the time, he was like, this is nuts. You're crazy. And so good for him. I wound up in jail, but it still didn't stop me from drinking. As soon as I left, I started drinking again. Well, it wasn't a time until I was finally sick of my sickness. And I remember I was at a familiar liquor store in my car. It was really rainy. outside and I surrendered. I surrendered. That was my first step. And I said, you know what? I can't do this alone. I need help. God, source, universe, where whoever you are, if you're there, please help me. And 2 weeks later, I wound up in the hospital, pancreatitis, thinking, "Oh my goodness, is God mad at me? But what's going on?" But it was a blessing in disguise
Yeah.
because the doctor there, she warned me sharply. She said, "Gina, you're going to die within 10 years if you continue drinking alcohol." And I was immediately shocked. And that moment made me think about my two young boys. Then they were age 9 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, could I really leave them motherless? And I was like, no, 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 no. So at the hospital, it was really me, myself, which is my inner wisdom, my inner guide,
Mm-hmm.
God. We all came together and then we had to make a decision. And the
Yeah.
decision was to stop drinking because it was a best setting for me to quit because I was in a hospital detoxing medically. And that's what I needed to detox in order for me to move ahead. And I had already moved out of the house with my boyfriend at that time, and I needed to live on my own. And so I didn't have any of my children. I was
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
really needed to build that relationship with myself. And then that's when the change happened.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. Hardcore. A couple of things you said that really jumped out at me. Starting out with the sexual abuse as a child. Thank you so much, first of all, for being brave enough and vulnerable enough to tell us that. It's not easy to talk about. I don't have many guests who are willing to share that much. So I really appreciate it. And I know that you do it from a place of wanting to help others, right? So I'm sober too, and I have some of that in my story. And I've always wondered how many alcoholics, especially women, have suffered from sexual abuse or trauma or some sort of sexual assault or whatever in their story. A lot of the women that I've sponsored over the years, the majority of them, it is part of their story. So I always wonder, like, how much of an effect that had, aside from the genetics, right? Because we do have genes. Like, you're either alcoholic or you're not. You're
Yeah.
either, when you start, you can't stop, or you can stop. I don't know if that's the type of alcoholic you were, but I was the type where, like, I didn't drink every day. But when I drank, I couldn't stop. That's the gene. That's the turning on the chemical part of it. But the why I picked up that drink, knowing what was going to happen, I
Right.
knew, wasn't stupid. I knew that something bad was probably going to happen, but I did it anyway. So that's spiritual malady. Then that brings me to what you said about left you with me, myself, being your inner wisdom, and God. I love that. I love that because that's where the healing, really the transformation happened for you, is when those three things came together. So it's like your humanness, your will, and then your higher self, your inner wisdom, this spiritual part of you, right? We are human and spirit. And then God coming together. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that process was like? Because I think there's a lot of people out there, they're like, okay, I want to stop drinking. And I understand that that can work, the spiritual aspect, but how? Like, when those thoughts would creep in, what would you do to not drink?
Right. I call it a miracle. It completely
Yes.
changed my view with alcohol. Like I had no interest whatsoever to ingest that in my system anymore. And I truly believe it was an act of God. I didn't grow up religious. I didn't really grow up spiritual. I just knew that there was God.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, let me go ahead and seek out God. So I went to church. That's what I did. I was kind of going here and there little by little. And I remember one time I actually went inside and I was crying, like something called the Holy Spirit, called the inner wisdom, higher self. Something took over me and I was just in tears. And I'm like, I need to be here because something is going on. And so that's what I did. And when I did, I just surrounded myself with people who were spiritual,
Mhm.
people who wanted to become better in their lives, to seek that higher power. And that's what I did. I wound up going to women's Bible study. I wound up serving the children's ministry. I
Mhm.
wound up serving the homeless because I felt so much joy in serving others. And it was a different type of habit. My
Mhm.
habits were
Yes.
partying, right?
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
going places and drinking. This one, I was helping others, but
Mhm.
sober minded. And that's what got me closer to God is by serving the world. And I do it to and
Yes.
I love it.
Love and service, love and service. There was a guy back in Long Beach, New York, where I'm from. He's a circuit speaker in Alcoholics Anonymous. That's his message. Love and service, love and service, love and service. And that's what it comes down to. So it's about feeling this inner love for ourselves. And that's what you teach, what you coach women. That's probably the end goal, right? I'm starting my own coaching business in January, and that's ultimately the goal, is this like self-worth, this self-love that was stripped from us, again, going back to the abuse at such a young age that we just didn't even have a chance to develop that, right? I look around at some of my nieces and nephews and how healthy they are. My own girls, my own daughters, they just have this confidence, this what you teach, confidence, clarity, vitality. They have this in them. And I never had that. And I think that is that malady, that hole in the soul. That's that spiritual malady that can only be filled with a spiritual solution. So even though I know you're not in 12-step recovery, you're the alcohol-free path, it still comes down to spirituality. Is that correct?
100%. Yes. I had to surrender and reach that higher power. So unfortunately, AA didn't work for me. I tried it and I didn't want to say I was an alcoholic anymore because I wasn't. And I didn't
Yeah.
want to say I was powerless because I wasn't. I felt like I had power. And it really comes from a place of deep self-respect.
Yes.
You
Yes.
really need to
Yes.
love yourself.
A hundred,
Yeah.
100%. And I don't think that they drive it home enough in AA that the power then starts to flow through you in like step 2, 3, around there. Like I'm not powerless anymore over alcohol. I recoil from it from like a hot flame, they say, right? Like just wouldn't want it. That's the miracle. That's what happens. But you can get there with the 12
Yes.
steps. You can get
Yes.
there with your own path of what works for you. So I'm so glad that you're here to provide another option, another path forward to sobriety. So let's talk more about this shine process. I really want to know what that is. What's that blueprint for sobriety and transformation?
Oh, I love talking about this. Well, let me just share where Shine came from first. So, in my early sobriety, I wanted to work out, right? I wanted to get back into my body. Well, I got recommended to a fitness expert, but she was a mindset coach for women who was just developing her program for mentoring women. Because I didn't know of any sobriety coaches out there, recovery coaches. There was AA, I guess. Oh my goodness, what do you call them? Sponsors.
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 Yes.
I
Yes.
was like,
Sponsors.
and I did
Mhm.
have one. It didn't really work out. Well, anyway,
Mhm.
so I started working with her. The best experience ever. Like her and I clicked so well, and she helped me with my mind and getting rid of those limiting beliefs, reframing my mindset, and just started looking at life differently. Well, she would text me all the time, keep shining, keep
Mm,
shining.
mm.
And that word shine has been with me since. I mean, obviously to this day. So, what I have created now, because once I became sober, I knew that it wasn't just about quitting alcohol, it was about stepping into my purpose. Yes, I
Yes.
had to go through pain and then find my purpose. And
Yes.
I found my purpose by helping other women. I've always helped people. Like I was a weight loss consultant when I was in my early 20s. I'm still a massage therapist. So I love service. So SHINE, it's actually an acronym. It is for sobriety. So that is the foundation. And now I say with sobriety, you want to know where your why is. Why do you want to become sober? Because people choose to not drink for either personal choice, lifestyle, or recovery. Mine is recovery. And, I always tell everyone, go ahead and write it down. Put it on a sticky note. Put it somewhere where you will see it every day, your why. Put it
Mhm.
on your cell phone, on your memo. Revisit that all the time because your why is the most important. Then next H is healing.
So wait, before we move on to that,
Yeah.
so when you say those different reasons why people want to get sober and yours is recovery, what's your definition of recovery? What does that look
Oh
like?
my goodness. So it's abstaining from all substances. I think sobriety means that it's not about just abstaining from something, but living a life free from all dependencies, I should say, actually.
Okay.
Yes. And then recovery means discovering who you truly are as a spiritual being and then letting go of past traumas,
Mm,
forgiveness.
mm.
Those are all parts of recovery for me. And
Yeah.
that's what I have experienced too.
Yeah. So you're not down with the whole California sober thing? what
The
California sober, where you can, I think, still smoke pot. I think that's
Oh,
the.
I must have never even heard of that.
Well, you're in California, right?
I am in California.
Yeah, it's like a thing. California sober,
Oh,
just abstaining from alcohol, but you could still smoke pot.
oh no. No, I'm not for that one.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
is-
Thank
I'm
you. Me
this,
neither.
because you're switching from one addiction to another.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're
This-
escaping your own mind. You're
Yes.
still trying to escape something and hide. And that is not what sobriety means. You could abstain and just not drink alcohol. There's a big
Right.
difference between being in recovery, like you're describing, and that being synonymous with sobriety versus just not drinking. You could,
Right.
plenty of people who just don't drink. And guess what? They're crazier than ever because once the drink is like the solve for us, right? It's
Right.
like salve. I don't know. Anyway, it's that thing that's like takes away the pain, And then when you don't have that anesthetic, you're left with all the pain. And how's that
Yes.
going to come out? It's going to come out as anger, going to come out as fear, resentment, all that stuff. So if you don't have some kind of program to deal with what being brought up to the surface that you're trying to push down with the alcohol, you're still going to be unhappy. So
Right.
yeah, I like that definition of recovery, stepping into your highest self and the forgiveness piece and changing,
Change.
transforming. That's why transformation is part of that title there. Okay.
Yeah. So, oh yeah. So the H is healing, the healing journey. So, this is where we're talking about getting to the root cause. We are just talking about this, right?
Uh-huh.
Getting to the
Uh-huh.
root cause. Why are we going to substances? Why are we going to certain addictions? Because it can even be like excessive use of the internet, shopping,
Yeah. Anything.
food.
Anything
So
where you're
it's
checking out, where you're just like,
yeah,
I'm just using this thing as a distraction.
right. So this is also about processing trauma, building self-love. Oh, self-love is very important. And then also finding healthier ways to cope. Our healing journey is not linear and it's different for everybody. Everybody's journey is different. And so once I discovered for myself, started loving myself, which then I started talking to myself differently,
Uh-huh.
that made a huge difference because you can be doing all the self-care activities, getting
Mhm.
massages, but how are you talking to yourself in those moments? Are your
Yeah.
thoughts critical or are they nurturing?
Mm. Yes. So thank you for saying that because again, concrete information for people to take and say, okay, so this is about my thinking and how I am viewing myself and how I'm talking to myself. So switching that negative to positive self-talk. Yeah, I could see over time, you start to believe it. Tell yourself anything, whether it's negative or positive, you're going to believe it over time.
Yes. Then I is inspiration, finding inspiration. So, what lights you up? This is where you get into your passions. This is where you find creative outlets. And this is also where you create life goals for yourself. I remember my mentor gave me a sheet and she said 1 year, 5 year, 10-year plan for me. What are your goals when it comes to relationships?
Yep.
When it comes to finances? When it
Mhm.
comes to anything really, whatever your true goals are. And so I always think it's important to set those goals for yourself. And also 2020 allowed me to even discover my passions. Like Amanda, I hated cooking before because
Uh-huh.
I thought I was only good at cooking top ramen and mac and cheese. I didn't really finish my story, but I am remarried now. I actually met
Okay.
my husband through street ministry. We got married in 2020 in February. He's Indian. And so he's from India, which
Uh-huh.
means their food is very complicated because they use a lot of
It is.
spices, right?
So good.
But
So good. But yes, complicated.
so good, complicated though. So I took the time to start learning how to make Indian food. Well, that has become a passion of mine, not just creating Indian food, but creating all sorts of food. I love cooking because I find it so therapeutic and I
Mhm.
really enjoy that. So that's one of my passions now I can say is cooking. Can I do a good job? Oh, Amanda, did I tell you that he said to me recently, like, do you know you cook better than some of the restaurants in India? I'm like,
Wow. Oh, I believe it. That's awesome. I
that
want some.
was that was such a huge compliment from you. I was like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's awesome. You said the word creative, and I feel like that inspiration, that's our creative spark. Whenever we're feeling really inspired, it's typically to do something creative, whether it's cooking or whether it's making music or writing or painting or when that inspiration comes from within, again, that's our spirit talking to us and trying to get us to step into that purpose. So cooking is one of your specialties. That's what you're good at. So it's so cool that all these things that we find out about ourselves in sobriety, when we just try, when we actually have enough self worth at some point to say, you know what, I'm going to try this because I might actually be good at it. If I think I'm going to stink at something, I'm not going to do it. But if I can have some kind of like, I might actually be good at this, I'm going to try it and then find out that I like it because I am good.
Yeah. Oh,
Cool.
yeah. So, yeah, I love that. And then N is for, of course, nurturing ourselves, our physical health, our mental clarity, as well as connecting to our spirituality, to our
Mhm.
spirit. And that's so important. And I mentioned to you earlier that I had to start moving my body, and that's what helped me. I was the 5 a.m.er at Orange Theory, and I would
Uh-huh.
wake up and work out early in the morning, and I felt so good. The natural chemicals were being released, that serotonin, that dopamine,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I felt incredible.
Yep.
Better than any drug, better than any
Yes.
any alcohol, high or nothing. Just I love the natural high. I actually find that when I'm out in nature, I feel nurtured. I tend to then pray, meditate, and I get so much more clarity that way. Whatever I ask for to the divine, I will get it within like at least a day or two. The answer.
Yep. You just have to ask. Yeah, I'm in a psychic mediumship program actually right now. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I have written in big letters, ask, ask, ask. You just have to ask for any information that you want. It's all divine messages coming through one way or the other. So yeah, you want answers? Just ask. Ask for it.
Yes.
I love it.
Oh, you will get the answer. Seriously. Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. I'm so happy for you. That's something that I want to get into too.
Yeah, it took me some time. Like, I'm not making it a business or anything. I'll probably just do it for friends, at least for now. It's something that I had to I don't really talk about it much. I'm like, I'm worried about being judged. Like, oh, that's crazy and not real and woo woo and all that stuff. But I'm like, you know what? At 2 a.m., it's been knocking at my door for a long time. I've taken some courses before years ago. It's just always been something I'm interested in, and we all have the gift. Some of us just are a little bit closer to it. I feel so alive, and that's probably what you feel too when you're out in nature. It's just being connected to something greater and knowing that it's real and that we can just tap into that whenever we want for some kind of healing messages, really is what it comes down to. So yeah, so I kind of avoided it for a while, but now I'm kind of stepping into it. It's just 2 a.m. and I have to embrace that, right? And it's a gift that I can offer other people as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you ever want the information, I can share with you my teacher and stuff.
Yeah. Yes. I'm all for that. The more woo, the better for me.
Yeah, the more
You're
little.
so
The
I'm so
more
open minded now. I used to be so closed off and just be like judging everything. I'm like, whatever. I'm so open minded because we are literally creating everything around us. But if I'm having a bad day, I probably created that. I can change up my mindset.
yes.
I can change my physiology. I can do something about it.
We create everything around us. Thanks for bringing that up. It's so true. Everything that is going on in your life, and a lot of people don't like to hear this because when bad stuff happens, they're like, "Well, I didn't create that." On some level, you did. Some things are for lessons, but the majority of it is in our control. Some things aren't. I do believe some things aren't. I believe some things are the result of other people's soul lessons and
Mm,
soul journeys, and we're sort of like the bystanders, but we agreed to be in their world to experience it with them. Um, but we have so much more control over our life just through our thoughts. And that
yes.
is so huge and something that a lot of people like we're stepping in, right? There's this big shift coming, this new earth, this spiritual
Yes.
awakening. And that's what I think is going to be centered around is our own personal power connected with spirit and the divine to change our life, change our circumstances, and really heal and then become loving and then be able to share that with others and really make the world a better place. So, yeah, all that connection, I think that's really kind of what it's all for. But sorry, you keep going.
Yes. No, I mean, I love hearing you because I totally agree.
Yeah, we're on the
I
same.
know this podcast can go on for like 3 hours,
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah, exactly.
So the last one is, for shine, so it's ease, empowerment, and resilience, really.
Yes.
Yes, because it's about feeling strong, capable, and taking control of our lives. And this is also where we start
Um,
feeling more confidence in ourselves. And then also setting boundaries, which is so important.
Mm.
And creating a support system that matches you and aligns with you and your values and your morals. Because I know that's the reason why I didn't really like the AA, because for me personally, and if it's working for you, please continue, please, because there's something different
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
I felt like I wasn't aligned to anybody there. I'm like, oh, I used to make
Mm.
some sort of connection, right? And that's also part of the healing journey is to connect.
Yes,
Find your sober tribe, a
definitely.
support group. It could be
Yes.
even if you go on, was it meetup.com? I know I used to do this when
Mhm.
I was first new mommy in 2008. I had to look for mommy groups. I'm sure there's some sobriety groups. There are
Yeah.
hiking groups. There
Yes.
are chess groups. There's Zumba groups. You just find what your passion is, and then you just find a group who loves to do what you do, and then just hang out with them, and you have so much fun.
That's such a great suggestion. There is something out there for you. If you're struggling with drinking and you don't know what path of recovery, just explore.
Yeah.
Explore them all and go toward the one that feels, like you're saying, the most aligned. You need it to be aligned with people who feels most like your tribe, like you're saying,
Yeah.
100%. So can we go back to the word boundaries for a minute? Can we explore that? Because I think a lot of people have a hard time doing that. How do you work with your clients in setting boundaries?
Oh, basically like just saying, hey, it's okay to say no. When you say no, I mean, tone is very important too. We don't want to be like,
Sure.
no,
Yes,
but
yes,
with
yes.
compassion and love, that will open up a yes to something else that lights you up. I always give the example, your drinking buddies, right? They used to be your drinking buddies and now they're like, hey, let's go out. The
Mm.
more they see you transform, they want to be more like you because
Mhm.
they're like, wow, it's like a ripple effect. Once they see you transform, then they want to transform. And if they transform, then whoever's seeing them transform, they want to transform. So
Wow.
it's a continuous process. And yeah, just basically giving love and compassion and being okay saying no and not feeling guilty. I know I was very guilty saying no. Anytime I would say no, I'd be like, oh, what are they thinking afterward? Now I'm just like, no, just not right now. Or no, thank you. Or, no.
Yeah, just no. I'm allowed to say no. I remember learning I was allowed to say, I'll get back to you on that.
I,
Give me a couple of days to think about that, where I always felt I had to give an answer, a yes or no immediately. And it usually was yes, because I didn't want you to not like me or be mad at me or leave me, really, ultimately, is what it comes down to, all this abandonment stuff. And that's a whole different episode. And I love when you said, about your friends and that like when you're changing, that's going to be attractive to people. We do have so much more effect on people and through our power, our personal power, than I think a lot of people realize. People are watching you.
Mhm.
People are inspired by you. People are going to be attracted and say, wow, I want what she has or he has. How are they doing that? Right? It's curiosity. They get curious. They say, well, I knew she was always like that. And now she's not. Now she has this life and this, and that. How did she do that? So
You're right.
being sober or living in this process, this shine process it's for you, of course, but then it's also how are you affecting the people and the world around you, right? That
Yeah.
would be a motivating fact. That is a motivating factor for me for how I live my life. Uh,
Yes. Yes. So it's interesting because, I'm on Facebook. I normally hang out there. A lot of my family's on there.
uh-huh.
And a lot of my old friends are on there too. I mean, they're still my friends. They're still my friends. I just don't hang out with them. But I'm seeing them now post, I have gone alcohol free for 30 days and I feel
Mm.
fantastic. I am not partying anymore. I got this new job. Like everyone's changing. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Now, I don't take credit for it, but they may be seeing something at least
Yeah. A
that
little of this,
inspires
a little
them.
of that, a little,
What is
yes, we're all
that?
doing our little
Yeah.
part.
Exactly. Because I feel like I had a quantum leap as soon as, okay, so 2020 happened, 2020, 2021, 22. Yeah. I got into a coaching business that I got a scholarship to. And I was part of a group called The Collective. Well, I learned a lot to start up business and things just went,
Uh,
okay, I was supposed to do this. So it's just amazing how things are thrown at you and then whatever excites you the most, make sure you do that. Even
mm.
if it's just a little bit more than what or the other thing, the little bit other exciting thing, do that. Do it with integrity, take action on it and without any attachments to the outcome. You will be
Mm.
happy and you will live your life so incredibly full of gratitude, I should say, because I am grateful every day for what has been given to me. It's a gift. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, this is
Yes.
sobriety is truly a gift. I
Mhm.
love it. It's like a
Yeah.
superpower too.
Totally. And
Mm.
that not being attached to the outcome, I think that's a huge, huge thing that a lot of people are starting to talk about. I love that there's so many people in this space that you and I are in, and all these women talking and men talking about all this stuff. It's interesting because it's a little confusing, I guess, more than interesting to not be attached to an outcome, but still, I believe that doesn't mean that I should have no expectation. Because if I have no expectation of anything happening in my life, how am I going to manifest?
Yeah.
Right. But to not be tied to that expectation in a way that's going to then devastate me if it doesn't happen. So it's sort of this fine line, right? It's sort of like this balance between having these goals or trying to do what you want to do, stay sober, whatever. I expect myself to stay sober. And, if I relapse, that hasn't been part of my story, but it could be. Then to say, okay, I'm human, have that compassion, and then you get back up on the horse. But
Mhm.
I have to have that expectation. If I have any shot at this at all or any other thing that I'm doing in life that I want to succeed at. I have to have a certain expectation. Yeah, maybe it's semantics, right? It could be a standard I set for myself or whatever. But um, I think when we say no expectation, it's limiting. I have certain expectations for myself. I'm just not devastated if they don't happen. So I'm not attached to the expectation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You always want the end goal in mind. We always have the goal in mind of what we want it to look like.
Loosely.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have like numbers. I have more
Right.
like, this is the feeling that I want to experience for myself and to give to others. God, whatever, higher power, higher self, whatever you want to call, show me how to get there. I'm not going to be so hard and fast to my plan because I might miss something. I might sell myself short. We often do. There's so much. I mean, I bet you when you got sober. So what's your sober date?
Oh my goodness. So mine is September 7th, 2017.
So I bet 7 years ago, you didn't expect your life to be what it is now. I mean, I remember being told if I wrote what I wanted my life to look like, 10 years from the day I got sober, 5 years from the day I got sober, I would be selling myself short. And I bet that's been true for you.
Thinking back and, I still give myself grace and compassion and I don't beat myself up, but
Sure.
I'm thinking, wow, what if I got sober way earlier? Where could I have been now? But this is my journey. I chose to be here in
That,
this lifetime now.
yeah. Yep.
With amnesia, I came here
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
amnesia.
Uh-huh.
And I do have my spiritual teachers, even the ones that taught me harsh lessons. That's okay. I love them anyway. I'm
Mhm.
here to
Yep.
love. I
Yep.
am here
That,
to love. And that's what it's all about. And that's what I'm being taught. And I notice I'm so different. I used to react to everything. I used to get hurt. I mean, I'm still human. I still get hurt. But I
yeah.
used to dwell on it and beat myself up. But now I don't do that anymore. I just say, Lord, God, universe, gosh, I call it, God, universe, source. I give this to you.
God.
It's in your hands now.
I've never heard that. I've never heard it.
Gus.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in your hands. It's in your hands. I feel like sometimes people feel like they believe in prayer so much that they don't have to take action. It's kind of like if I just pray enough and
Oof.
pray enough, it's just going to happen. And maybe, miracles do happen. But for me, what the prayer does, and I'd like you to speak to how it works for you too. For me, it intuits into me what I'm supposed to do. I have to take the footwork. I'm the hands and feet. I have to take the action, but it's the inspiration, it's the intuition from Gus that tells me what I need to do. And then it's up to me and my human will. That's why we're given free will, right? It's up to
Yes.
me then to like be in partnership with this thing and say, okay, I hear you and I'm gonna do it. Show me how type deal.
Yeah. I think as long as you take action, you get what your manifested goals are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just take action.
I remember somebody saying once in a meeting, like, it's no surprise that my life has gotten better. I'm making better choices. Like my
Yes.
life is better. It's not this like, yes, we're miracles because we're sober. I totally believe that. But
Yeah.
the fact that my life is the way it is because of the actions that I've taken. So yeah, I'm all about action. I don't really think anything can happen without it.
Yes, yes. And that's what led me to getting that scholarship. My coach, shout out Rebecca Cafiero,
Right.
uh, there was an assignment on there. I was just taking the master classes, and one of the assignments is like, do a 2-minute video of your story being vulnerable. And this was on a
Mm.
Facebook group that had like 4,000 members on there
Wow.
of women. This is a women's group.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, Gina, you can do this. Let's do
Yeah.
this assignment. Let's
Wow.
take action. And
Yeah.
so that's what I did. And that's what landed me that freaking scholarship. So yes,
Vulnerable action. You're taking
vulnerable
vulnerable
action.
action. And now you're able to open up a podcast talking about sexual abuse. Like that, it's like it's that jump doesn't have to take that long. Like you just get comfortable with it. You kind of cross a line where you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And for me, it feels again most aligned with my true self.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? We're supposed to be sharing from our hearts and our souls because no matter what I say, no matter what you say, there's somebody out there who can identify.
Oh yes, for sure. And that was me. I heard stories. I'm like, I can relate.
Yeah.
And I can relate. I can relate.
Yes.
I'm not alone. We're never alone.
Yeah.
You really just need to connect to your higher power, Gus, and
Yes.
connect and build that relationship. And it's just beautiful after that.
It
It's
really
just
is.
beautiful.
If you allow it, if I allow it, that's my main struggle is getting caught up in here.
Oh, I know. The human conditioning, right?
But it's all for a reason, overcoming that basically. I would prefer to be living really aligned, feeling in flow with spirit as often as I can. That's kind of like my goal to just live in that space, but we're here on earth, we're in the 3D world. We have to deal with life as it is here. So it's how do I blend those two to make it work for me? And I feel like you could get there with this whole shine process. And what I was thinking about, to go back to that for a second, and I wrote down not linear. When you teach people this, it feels like interweaving, right? They're all tied together, basically.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily like a step one, step two, step three thing. It
Oh,
feels
yeah. Yeah.
line for living that's all kind of together.
Yeah, they pretty much just take whatever offerings I give them and they pick because they're gonna change themselves. I'm not gonna change
That's
them.
so
They
true.
change themselves.
That's Brooklyn, right?
And always a good coach. I already see their potential before they even see it for themselves. I see their future. Like I look at someone, and this is part of the intuitive part that,
Yeah.
that I'm going to be
Yeah.
getting into as well.
Uh-huh.
I can see already their future. I'm going to go back to my husband. I'm going to tell you something funny. So when we first started dating, he's a process engineer at the time. And I looked at him, I said, I don't see you as a process engineer. I see you as you managing your own team. He's, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm not there. Just recently, he's been really trying to build his own team. He wants to be in that management position. He didn't see that for himself until finally he had to see it for himself.
Yep.
But I can
Yep.
see it. I
Yep.
can see. So I can see everyone's potential, and everyone has potential.
Everybody. And imagine how amazing this world would be if everybody lived up to their potential
Oh my
and
gosh.
believed in their potential. Oh my gosh. We'd be like, humanity would look very different right now if everybody was walking around lit up. I like how you started
Yes.
early before you talked about what lights you up. That's the thing. That was that an inspiration. That's in the
Yes.
eye, just going toward that and just more and more and more, and just bringing more and more of that into your own life. And then raising your vibe, raising your frequency, right? That's the solution. I guess people that listen to us probably do believe that. That is the solution. I wish more people really understood that the energy is what's creating the world around us. But you can do that. Raise your vibe, your high frequency with Gina's shine process. This is really, really great for sobriety. It's another path.
Yeah.
So, all right, Gina, is there any last thing that you want to leave our listeners with before we wrap up?
Oh, yes. There was a quote that was sent to me, and I thought, I'm like, oh, I wanted to say this and read this
Great.
to you. It says, whenever you find yourself doubting how far you can go, just remember how far you have come. Everything you have faced, all the battles you have won, and all the fears you have overcome. Now, I don't know who exactly is the author of that quote, but it was sent to me and I thought it was beautiful. So I just wanted to share that to your audience.
Thank you so much. I was just thinking about that like yesterday, the day before. That's interesting. You read that. It's not surprising to me, but it's interesting. That whole concept of like looking back, like 5 years ago, thinking about what you wanted and who you were, and then where you are now. It's just so exciting to think about what's yet to come for both of
Yeah.
us. Really, really awesome. Thank you so much, Gina. So, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so the easiest is just to go on my website. You can actually have access to my 6-step blueprint to living an alcohol-free life. These are the steps that I have taken myself that I still do to this day that has helped me in my sobriety journey.
So that's like a freebie, like somebody
Yeah,
can go over to your website and just sign up
yeah.
and get that. Yeah, I'll put
Yeah.
all that in your notes. And I know on Instagram and Facebook.
On Instagram, it is shine underscore
Oh,
Gina Kunadian. Yeah,
okay.
that's the only one. But everything else
Fine
is Gina
underscore.
Kunadian. You can find, I think I'm the only Gina Kunadian in the world.
Probably, yeah. And I will put all this information in the show notes. Your name will be right there in the title of this podcast. Listeners, watchers, whatever, go check that out and go find Gina because you embody shine. You
Oh,
just you shine. So you're living it. You're doing it, girl. Thank you so much for being here with us. It was really a pleasure.
oh, I love you, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me.
Love you too. Thanks. Bye. If this episode resonates with you and you want to dive deeper, check out my blog, Get Real, All In on Love, Loss, and Connection at AmandaMcCoyFlanagan.com. That's McCoy with a K. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Amanda McCoy Flanagan. See you next time. Until then, let that soul rise.